What's up, nerds? Harbinger here with another meme coming at ya. IR programmer. You can't go wrong with cat memes. I heard they're on the internet. Bam, there's one. Thank you for tuning in for another Java Let's Play video. Let's get rolling. You've got homework on burgers and value meals. And I want to make the point that classes can have other objects as variables. So things like cats have number of lives and fur color and names and a fixed status and a gender status. And that's cool because they're integers and strings and booleans. But a cat can have another thing as an object too, as one of its variables. So a cat might have a food dish. And it's not a string, it's an actual food dish object that it remembers. Or maybe a cat has a house. Or maybe a cat has, I don't know, a favorite toy or something like that. Maybe a cat likes string. Cat joke, sorry, can't go wrong. I'm going to show you some code, and I'm going to show you some weird little Java quirks that I think some of you picked up on, and I think could really benefit some people. So I'm going to start off with a basic class like the rabbit class. And rabbits have fur color, and they've got a boolean for whether they're female or not, whether they're fluffy or not, and whether they're cute or not. And you see the default constructor, and I can set it just like we've been doing. Except, if you see the comment, you could even do something like that. And what this does is it says, hey, the female status is equal to, and this just flips a coin. You know, it gives you a random double from 0 to 0.999999999. And if it's more than halfway, hey, female, else male. I've got my constructor here, right? I've got another constructor. It's called overloading the constructor. So I've got a default constructor, and the second I put in another constructor, the constructor's overloaded. That means that I've got more than one way of doing something using the same kind of commands. So a generic rabbit and a parameterized rabbit, although no matter what, this rabbit's going to have a cuteness of 8, and the default rabbit's got a cuteness of 7, and then I'm going to do a different constructor here in a second. I can have a whole lot of constructors, and I don't want people to think it's just a default and a parameterized one. It's not. I can specify all sorts of different ways how to make rabbits. So rabbits, they have accessors. I didn't show them. I've got a mutator for fur color, but I didn't put it in, and that's okay. And I could put more mutators in too. Just understand, please, they're there. I just didn't write the code for it. This happens a lot in the AP test, and I want you to know that you should be reading comments to know what's actually there and what's not. Rabbits can threaten. You know, if you've got like a little bunny rabbit, like rabbit bunny equals new rabbit, bunny.threaten, it's going to roar, and it's going to roar loudly. And then last but not least, I've got a toString method. And again, toStrings are what the programmer thinks is important about the object. And I think the fur color and the gender status is important here for bunnies, so whatever. One thing I want to show was some people pointed out this dot, so it could be like this dot, fur color, whatever, equals aqua, who knows what. But it doesn't always have to be that. The other thing you could do is, knowing that you've got a mutator, you could use the mutator. So this is legal also. And if I had mutators for the female status and fluffy status and cuteness, I could do that too. Right? So I could say something like, see, I only have the mutator for fur color. So I could call the mutator this dot set fur color, and what that does is it says, hey, go to the fur color mutator, use this as an input, and do whatever that mutator says to do. And considering it just says, you know, this dot fur color equals whatever the input is, whatever, this works. So it's like a method that calls another method that changes something. And like we said before, it's like f of g of x in math. Hey, I've got a function calling another function with an input, and that's cool. Here, though, I don't think aqua is the best idea. It's kind of funny, but considering I'm specifying fur color coming in, I should probably go with that. And I think people get mixed up on that too, because if I ever make a rabbit, and if I left this as aqua, I should have just hit undo. Even if I tried to make a rabbit in the future, something like rabbit r equals new rabbit, and I said, you know, make a rabbit that's, you know, gray or something like that, and has a cuteness level of 9, that's cool and all, except I think I'm making a rabbit that's gray, and it goes in here and it's like, oh, they have a string, and that's cool, and I'm going to set the fur color to aqua. What? So you got to be really careful about what's inside the constructor and make sure it does what you want it to do. So instead of aqua, I'm going to feed it fur color, and then I've got to do other stuff too. So I could say something like is female equals true and is fluffy equals false. I don't know. And then last but not least, cuteness equals whatever the cuteness thing coming in is, and there's that. You need to know that constructors' jobs are to give the variables values. Hey, you're a constructor. Did you give all the variables values? Good. You don't have to. Like, I could leave this out, and cuteness still has a value. You don't see it right now, but trust me, it's there. It's just really good programming practice to make sure that all the variables have values. Hey, there's a shareable form, and there's a cuteness level. So those are my rabbits, and let's see. I've got a magician class too. Now, if I was doing this in Eclipse, I would have a rabbit class inside the package, and I would have a completely separate class, right? I would add a new class to the project, and I would call the class Magician. And magicians have stage names. They wear a cape, or they don't. They have a Yelp rating, and they've got a rabbit. I can tell you right now that a common error is this, because you're thinking, gee, I've got a stage name and a cape and a Yelp rating, and hey, the magician wants a bunny. This is just a string, right? This is just some text. He wants, or she wants, an actual bunny, right? And considering that there's a bunny class, that's cool. You could, as a magician, have a rabbit that is represented with all of these variables and all of these ways of making a rabbit and all of these capabilities. But if you just have a string, they don't have that. They don't have all the stuff you want. And I want the magician to be able to access the bunny, and then we can access the bunny's qualities too. So this is called a has-a relationship, because the magician has a bunny. And it's funny, when you're writing code, sometimes you have to make this philosophical choice. Does the magician have the bunny, or does a bunny have a magician? You know, and you don't really want the bunny class to have a magician variable if the magician has a bunny class, because sometimes you get some really weird stuff going on there. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, does the garage have a car, or does the car have a garage? I've had to make that choice a couple times, and sometimes it's a little bit weird, but you make the call. So anyway, I've got this magician default constructor and a generic stage name, Joey Demon. I had Joey as a student, fantastic magician. You know, giving him a shout out here. I know he's never going to watch the video, but whatever. Wears a cape. He didn't wear a cape. I'm assuming that Yelp goes up to 5. If it goes higher, I'm sorry, Joey. If the max Yelp rating is lower than 5, well, he was really, really, really good. So whatever. And then I've got to fill the bunny field. And so I'm going to make a brand new rabbit, and it's going to call the default constructor. So I've got this default magician whose name is Joey Demon, and he doesn't wear a cape, and his Yelp rating is 5.0, and his bunny has gray fur, and is female, and is fluffy, and is 7 out of 10 cute. It's a lot of qualities going on right there. I could have used the one of the constructors up top. You know, hey, maybe the bunny is like purple or something like that, and has a cuteness level of 4, right? I could use the constructor that we just made. And you would have to know that this magician that we made like this, his name is Joey Demon, doesn't wear a cape, Yelp rating's 5.0, and they have a rabbit whose fur color is purple, has a cuteness level of 4, is female, and is not fluffy. That works. So I'm going to just do this because this makes sense to me. And let's see, I can make a magician with a given name and a given rabbit. And heads up, this magician's going to wear a cape, and the Yelp rating's 4.5. And I love the Monty Python. It is the rabbit. You can't go wrong. I've got mutators and accessors. And this is a little bit weird for people, because the accessor for rabbit, you know, hey, instead of public int get num of lives, public int, you know, get num of siblings, public string get name, every single time it's like, what are you giving back? And here I'm going to give back a rabbit object. It's literally, hey, magician, give me your rabbit. Okay, no problem. And they're going to hand you a rabbit. So I'm going to use a rabbit accessor And all it's going to do is return bunny. Which again is weird, but it works. And then I've got public void set rabbit. And I'm going to take in a rabbit and I'm going to set this. So maybe I got a new rabbit and I'm going to replace the old one with this one. That works. Make sure my fields match. I had a field called bunny. Okay, so I'm making sure that my variables are named correctly. What I can do is hold 2 rabbits. You know, if I use set rabbit, the old one gets replaced. That's the point. And if you really want 2 rabbits, you got to make another rabbit field up here for like bunny 2 or something like that. But what if you don't initialize the field? Oh my gosh, that's a problem. So for now, I'm just going to go 1 rabbit and we'll be good. You also got to be super careful because we talked a second ago about what happens if this isn't there. Hey, there's still a cuteness level if you use this constructor, but just as a heads up, if you don't have this line, your code still compiles. That's cool, but it's going to be a weird thing, right? Instead of just having a cuteness level of 0, or maybe a boolean with maybe like a false setting, or maybe a char who just is like, you know, no particular character set or something like that. You have to be really careful because if there's no rabbit declared in the constructor and I try to ask a generic magician for its rabbit, it has no idea what you're talking about. It's not like a default rabbit. The rabbit literally isn't there. That's a problem. So, that's right, Mr. Smith. Boo. We got to worry about making sure all of our variables have values. So I even have a toString, public string toString. I want the magician stage name and the bunny who is, and I call the bunny's toString. And then, you know, you can go see the reviews on Yelp. That's cool. Now, be careful here too, because in a tester class, that's better. I could do other things too. So if I really want to make a magician m1 equals new magician, and if I do one of these, the magician has a rabbit. I could say something like, hey m1, what's the name of your rabbit? And it would be just fine. What you can't do though is, well, I guess rabbits don't have names, right? Fur color, female, fluffy, and cuteness. So I don't know, get cuteness. Doesn't work. Magicians don't have a cuteness method. They don't. What you could do though is you could say get rabbit. You could use the rabbit's accessor, and this is not the best way. Sometimes, well, that works better. It's okay to ask the magician for their rabbit, and then ask the rabbit for its cuteness. That works. And that's okay to do. You could also say something like rabbit, you know, I don't know, Thumper from Bambi equals m1 dot get rabbit. And then you could actually output Thumper's cuteness or something like that. Same exact deal. Get fur color, I guess, or something like that. So that works too. These are really similar chunks of code. Just here I'm saying, hey, I've got this rabbit variable, and it's going to remember the magician's rabbit, and then I'm going to ask that rabbit for the fur color, as opposed to like m1.getRabbit.cuteness. You can stack dots like that as long as they make sense. Just be really careful because sometimes you get something weird like m1.getRabbit.get fur color. I can type better than that. Dot get, I don't know, well, I guess dot length or something like that. m1.getRabbit.getFurColor.length. You know, maybe you want to know how many characters there are in the magician's rabbit's fur color. I don't know why you would, but it's legal. Legal, but clunky. So, other things you could do if you really want to make a magician. Oh, goodness gracious me. Magician. I'll write good code at some point. M2 equals new magician, and maybe I want to use some of the constructors. So I'm going to look at the magician's constructor, and I used the default one already, but maybe I want this one. I want string and rabbit. It is the rabbit. So I'm going to give the magician a name. Oh god, Presto. Works for me. And you could even do this. You could say, hey, I'm going to make a constructor call inside this constructor. So, hey, magician M2, you're a brand new magician. Your name is Presto. And inside that rabbit field in the constructor, because the constructor is saying, hey, taking a string, got it, taking a rabbit. You could do this. Heck, you could even say something like, I'm going to use that other one we just did. I want a rabbit who's red with a cuteness of 6. You could ask the rabbit's constructor to do work inside the magician's constructor. Perfectly legal. The other funny thing you could really do if you really wanted would be something like, hey, my name is Presto, and my rabbit is the same as the other rabbit from M1. I'm going to go get their rabbit and use that information too. But this gets weird about like memory and other stuff, so I'm going to back off that for now and save that conversation for the future. For now, I've got a generic rabbit. So Presto is the name of the magician. The Yelp rating, if I ask for that one, I could say something like, well, the Yelp rating is 4.5 because this is the constructor that I used. And Presto, the magician, has a cape. So that works. Whew. The other thing you could do is you could make a rabbit like temp rab or something like that. Like one of those. And then you could make a magician Magic Steve, I guess. And you could use the variable from up above in there. So Magic Steve is the name, and the Yelp rating is 4.5. And the rabbit, well, it's this one up here. That's okay to do it in 2 lines too. That's cool. So maybe, just maybe, I want to write code that talks about adding the 2 cuteness levels of rabbits. And I'm going to ask the magicians for help. So I've got M1 up here, who's got a rabbit with a cuteness level. And I've got M2 here with a rabbit with a cuteness level. And I'm going to add them. So I'm going to make an integer variable just because total cuteness. I feel horrible just writing that line of code in the first place. M1 dot get rabbit dot get cuteness plus, and it's the same exact thing all over again for M2. So when you're doing your burger and value meal homework and I ask for like total calories or something like that, it's okay to say int total calories, and then it's literally, hey value meal, go get me your burger. Hey burger, go get me your number of patties or calories or whatever I'm asking for. And then hey value meal 2, same exact deal. And then we could just SOP, total cuteness. So not horrible, but definitely doable. Just make sure that you're using accessors appropriately. Make sure that you are asking an object to go get something. That's cool. And I'll post a bonus video on how you can use some of these features of classes having objects as fields to make something really cool in my next video. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Good luck on the homework. And Harbinger